The president has expressed his desire to reshuffle his cabinet, and he will do it. I don't know whether he wants to do it before October 1, but he will surely do it. So that's what I will say. He has not given us any timeline when he wants to do it, but he will do it. He has expressed his plan. The president actually gave an order to all his ministers to go out there to speak about the activities of his government. Some of them have been media shy, TV shy, radio shy, and he wants them to really overcome all that and go out there, speak about what they have been doing the past year. Because as he said, the feeling outside there, that some people feel the government is not doing anything.
Onanuga there, the president's spokesperson, speaking about the known unknown and the unknown unknowns. But of course, one thing we can agree on is this cabinet reshuffle is imminent. Let's bring in our guest. He's a politics and policy analyst. Emmanuel Osemeka has joined us this evening to help us dimension this issue. As you can imagine, it is capturing the imaginations of Nigerians. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on Daily Politics. It's good to see you again.
Good evening, sir. Good to see you.
Let's start with your reaction to this particular development. A couple of weeks ago, it was in the grapevine, within the realm of speculation, to be or not to be. Now the presidency is giving us a certainty that this is going to happen, even though they're very sketchy with the details. What are your thoughts about it?
I mean, well, the idea of cabinet reshuffle is to, when you do a post-mortem of how far you've come towards your vision, then you know whether you're going in the right direction or you need to tweak or increase the size of the engine of your vehicle in order to get your destination faster. But I think the very first thing that needs to be done is the vision very clear? Is the destination very clear to the ministers? You know, like Onanuga was trying to allude there that the ministers have been camera shy, media shy, radio shy. Very funny, really. The reality is that if what you want to achieve is clear to your lieutenants, then you have very clear, key performance indicators to use to judge them. I remember that some time back, I was in these studios, to discuss the supposed key performance indicators, outlined for the ministers or to be used to gauge the performance of the ministers. And the key performance indicators that were really riddled out there were not very clear. They were not speaking to any specifics or to any specific vision or destination that these ministers will run with. Besides the Minister for Interior, who came on board and clearly discovered challenges with the issuance of the Nigerian international passports, they saw issues with the NSCDC, and of course the correctional services. This is one minister that we can beat our chest and say, okay, he sort of understood his assignment and he began to follow through with his assignment with some level of deliverables. The other minister that I can also beat my chest and say, okay, maybe reasonably he's done something that you can point to is Bosu Tijani. That's the ICT minister.
With the digital economy?
The digital economy, yeah. To a very large extent.
Impressed?
Yes, I am impressed because of the way he has been able to involve, some level of young people.
The verdict online is that, he has underperformed from where Sheikh Pantami left. That is the overriding opinion in the public domain.
Unfortunately, what Pantami has done versus what he's done is very clear for people to see. I'm not his spokesperson, and I don't intend to be anybody's spokesperson. It is very clear the volume of investments that he's been able to bring in. He's a private sector person, he's not a politician per se, even though I heard he tried to run for office or something like that. But as a private person, most private individuals don't want to be seen out there. They just want to perform. I see the program they have on the ICT integration for the young people, using it as a use to catalyze, employment generation by the young people and all that. For me, I see where they're coming from and I see where they're going, and it's very, very clear. Maybe they're not able to communicate their plans to people to see. Probably that's one of the things that.
Do you think one of the reasons for this change is due to poor performance or poor communication of their achievements?
Is a combination of one, lack of clear vision, then of course, as a result, poor performance. Yes, if you have 42 ministers or 48 ministers and we're only able to pick 2, 3 or 4, then of course it's poor performance, across board. I can't even remember the names of most of the ministers. For example, the humanitarian ministry. Nigeria has been bedeviled with all kinds of disaster, humanitarian crises left and right. I mean, at the beginning of the program, you took us to Niger State, where we're talking about 171,000 hectares have been destroyed. That's food lost. That's food loss. The impact of that is coming in the next couple of months.
We understand that the administration is thinking about scrapping the ministry entirely.
Unfortunately, even creating the ministry ab initio was an error. You don't need a humanitarian ministry to handle interventions. That's why we used to have ministers of special duties. Ministers of special duties were the ones who were in charge of the SDGs or the MDGs, and those SDGs and MDG offices were intervention offices. And you can use them because everything that the humanitarian ministry will do, right, can be fused into the sustainable development goals, because they are all, sector-based interventions.
Do you think anything that comes out of this particular development is going to close the door on the Better Educate?
Well, I don't know. Better Educate has gone from a criminal breach of what do you call it now? What's the word now? I'm trying to be very careful with the word I use.
Alleged.
An alleged criminal, misconduct to a political issue, because we've not really heard anything serious since she was suspended. You can't suspend somebody infinitum. Okay. What I see that is going on here is that the president created coordinating minister of economy and created another coordinating minister for health. Unfortunately, the government have operated largely with almost no coordination, because the reality is, and he also created what they called the Monitoring and Evaluation Office, which Hadiza Bala Usman is heading. Unfortunately as well, there is no synergy from what I have seen between the coordinating minister of the economy, because every minister works towards the betterment of the economy. Everything all the ministers does is to improve the economy by and large. So the essence of having a coordinating minister is to ensure that every of their program is, geared towards the vision of the administration. If you ask me what the vision of this administration is, I won't be able to tell you. I have no idea.
Is it because you don't have any interest in understanding them?
Do you know?
I mean, the Renewed Hope agenda seems to be very clear.
The Renewed Hope agenda, I don't even know what it is.
Is it because of your lack of interest in them?
It's not about lack of interest.
Because they have not communicated it clearly.
Beyond even communicate, yes, maybe one of it is that it's not been communicated clearly, but the fact that the policies that have been thrown out in the last 2 years goes against even what they have put in the Renewed Hope agenda. The economy is contracting, not just contracting, is on the free fall. 2, cost of living has skyrocketed. It's as if we are in an aircraft with no pilot, not even on autopilot.
How much of that is a function of poor, ineffective policies, and how much of it is actually a function of successive mismanagement of the economy over the past 2 decades?
I think it goes beyond even saying the past 2 decades, because, for example, I believe that what we need to do is very clear. It's not lost on any of us. The day the president was declared winner, if for any reason he didn't understand what he was coming to do, he had more than 3 months before he was sworn in. At that period, they created what they call transition team. The transition team were able to, interface with the outgoing administration to be able to get a proper grasp, clearer vision of the state of affairs. With that clearer state of affairs, it behoved on the incoming administration to say, okay, this is where we are. This is what I plan to do. Unfortunately, with what I'm seeing, it will be difficult to go where I want to go. So let's start from here. Unfortunately for us as Nigerians, the president began with grandstanding with very wrong policy, which he didn't think through. And I know deep down in their privacy now, they are beginning to agree that the way he removed the subsidy, fuel subsidy, was wrong.
Recently, the president was speaking during his visit in China, and when he also came back, he was giving audience to a group of stakeholders, and he said, listen, when I came on board, the whole conversation about subsidy removal, there was absolutely no money to keep the subsidy regime up until June when it was supposed to elapse. So it seems to say it seems to show us that in hindsight, it was a no-brainer to remove subsidy anyways.
Yes. So if I were the president, sir, I don't have the information he had. But if I had the information he had, or even without having the information he had, with the little information I have, and knowing the subsidy regime of Nigeria, the subsidy regime of Nigeria is a scam. We do not use 90 million liters of PMS daily in Nigeria. It's impossible. We do not even use 30 million liters. If I, as a president, the first day, what I would have done on that stage will be that I'm setting up a committee and I'm giving them 2 weeks to report back to me. And I want preliminary report in a week. What that would do is what Jonathan and his team did, where they began to put a cap, like a meter, in the production of, at the upstream level, to be able to understand the volume of crude that we produce. What you ought to have done was to be able to tell us clearly how much fuel do we import at the time, right? And every claim of subsidy needed to be investigated before you even pay. And the ones that have been paid, you investigate it. When you do that, sir, everybody will sit up. When President Buhari was sworn in 2015, sir.
But in the meantime?
In the meantime, I will maintain what status quo. The status quo will not be, I'm not going to make any pronouncement to say, oh, he's gone or he's not gone.
But the president is saying there is no money to maintain the status quo.
No, but the point is that you pay this thing after. You pay after clearing house. The reality is that we were paying non-existing subsidy.
Right.
That's the truth.
Okay. So let's get back to the some of the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. We have some graphics there for you to suggest what Guardian, in their analysis, the Guardian newspaper did is to identify certain individuals and what may likely happen to them. For instance, the former Speaker of the Nigerian House of Representatives, who is currently serving as Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, is likely to be replaced by the former governor of Lagos State and former Minister of Works, former super minister under the Buhari administration, Babatunde Raji Fashola. This is within the realm of speculation at the moment. But what do you make of this?
So what I see here is, it goes back to what I said, that the administration lacks coordination. Babatunde Raji Fashola, we call him BRF, was President Tinubu's chief of staff for 6 years in Lagos. And he was not even in the picture of, amongst those who succeeded him. But from the blues, he became the governor. And I'm not his fan. I love him. He's one of the eggheads in Nigeria. He performed as the Lagos State governor. He didn't perform as minister for me. He performed as chief of staff. He performed as governor. So he's one of the best governors that Nigeria has ever produced. But as minister, for me, he didn't perform. Now, what the president, I'm thinking is, if this is correct, is that he's looking for coordination. He's looking for someone who understands administration.
What is the job of a chief of staff anyway?
In Nigerian parlance, the chief of staff is the deputy president. The president is the political head.
Deputy president?
Okay, so
we have a vice president.
So we have a vice president, yes, but like President Obasanjo said, that the vice president is like a spare tire, and you don't use the spare tire unless the tire in the vehicle is bad. So as long as the president is kicking and going, the vice president remains a spare tire. And luckily for our current vice president, the president is actually using him properly. I mean, he's at the hunger, and he gave a speech. That's the first vice president of Nigeria that I've ever seen go to hunger to address the entire world. So that's kudos to Tinubu, but for whatever it's worth, I mean, I celebrate that, you know. So Vice President Kashim Shettima, we call him the Einstein, you know, with his oratory skills and all that. But the fact is, the touted replacement of Femi Gbajabiamila with BRF is to the extent that I believe that Tinubu is going is trying to create some level of stability. There is this talks left and right that maybe Mr. Gbajabiamila's supposed political interest or ambition is clogging or going, affecting the workings of the office of the Chief of Staff. Because the truth is, a lot of the job of the Chief of Staff of Nigeria today is what the Secretary to the Government of the Federation used to be. We used to have a government where then we had Ufoto Ekaite. We had Yale Ahmed. These were powerful men. I mean, if you want to know what is going on in the government, these are the men that if you go before them, they will tell you everything, because these are seasoned administrators. But over time, this issue of Chief of Staff became a norm. So the Chief of Staff began, is naturally someone who is supposed to handle the activities of the president. But they've gone beyond that now. All the approvals, all the memos, the ministers, even if you look at the way they sit at the FEC, you will see that the president sits, on his right is the vice president. The absence of the vice president, you have the Secretary of the Government Federation. Who is the next person?
The Chief of Staff.
Chief of Staff. Yeah. That's how powerful that office is. In fact, in some cases, it's the Vice President, Chief of Staff. That's how powerful. So all the ministers supposedly report to him.
So where do you see the gap there? I mean, because clearly, Femi Gbajabiamila has been at the receiving end of public criticism
from day one.
From day one, right? Yes. It's safe to say that a lot of people wanted to take him out of that position.
Yes.
So, from what has happened over the past 16, 17, 18 months, give or take, right? Where did he miss the step? If at all, the speculation that he's going to be replaced is genuine.
So the fact is, if truly he's going to be replaced, it will come as a result of his inability to manage that office. He's a politician. Yes, he's a lawyer, but he's more of a politician. He's been a politician for over 20 years. He's not really been an administrator. Administrators are technocrats. They are seen and not heard. Mr. Gbajabiamila is practically always in front of the camera with the president, as if he's, struggling to share space with the president. The Chief of Staff is not meant to be heard, but in fact, not even meant to be seen. He's the man behind the president and ensuring that everything works. All the I's. He's the man that ensures that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. So I think what is happening is that amongst the team, the 48 ministers and probably all the other appointees, there must be some level of distrust with Femi Gbajabiamila. Either, for whatever, I mean, I'm being very careful with what I say out there because it's still in the realm of speculation. Yeah. But Fashola has been in that position before. He understands that position, and I think he will do a very good job.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Obviously, this is the man that is rumored to be the replacement of the current Chief of Staff.
Yes.
Both well known to the president in terms of their capacity, in terms of their track record. So it will be a like-for-like swap, so to say, from their antecedents. So let's take a look at another projection. This is what is also being touted as happening. Some say there was a lot of begging by some of these ministers to keep their jobs. So, according to some of the reporting, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Waledu, is expected to have a junior minister, and the chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, is rumored to be just the right person for that particular job. It's safe to say that with the economy, it's self-explanatory. The president is not happy with the current trajectory of the Nigerian economy. Does this make sense to you?
I think this is actually what is going to happen. The Ministry of Finance is humongous. I've never seen where just one person is made a minister and there's no deputy minister. Do we have a deputy minister of finance?
No, not really.
We don't.
No.
And so Wale Edu is the minister of finance and
coordinating minister
of the economy. Taiwo Oyedele, you know, I mean, a seasoned tax administrator. I mean, he's a chartered accountant, professional. I love him. I listen to him a lot. I've read a lot of his reports.
Do you like some of his views on tax reform?
Some of his views, I don't agree with. I mean, I don't agree. I'm a statistician by training. Okay, so, but he's a professional. There are things he's bringing that I like, but there are things he's bringing that I don't like. I agree with him that it is important that for the economy to grow, you need to stimulate small businesses. How do you stimulate small businesses? One of the key elements of stimulation of small businesses is to remove all the unnecessary taxations. As at the last count, when he checked, it was over 1,000 plus taxes that we have across the country. Some of them state tax, state will collect, federal will collect, same tax, local government will collect from the same small businesses. And how do you expect them to survive? I remember the last time that the President Muhammadu Buhari signed I think a tax law, something like that. Any business that is not making up to 25 million should not pay tax. I don't know if it's sustained, but I believe that one of the reasons why Taiwo Oyedele is coming on board is to be able to help streamline and refocus the tax policy of the government and infuse it into the job creation element of the administration. I believe that's one of the key elements is going to come into field.
All right, let's take a look at the next guest, so to say, for lack of a better word. Let's take a look at the next one. All right, there we go. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, he has come under heavy criticism.
He's one of the worst ministers.
Some say he may not survive the shake-up.
I don't see any reason why to keep him. He's one of the
underperformed.
Not just, he was one of the worst ministers that we have ever produced.
How about we go with underperformed in your view?
Well, the question is what has been his performance? You see, performance is a subject of impact. What is the impact of Mr. Adebayo Adelabu?
But to be fair to him, to the administration, the power sector has been inundated with myriads of challenges for decades.
I agree. So the question is...
It wasn't something that he could have solved within 1 year.
Yes, it wasn't something he could have solved within 1 year. But you see, the problem with the Nigerian government and governance system is that the administrators, when they come on board, they don't understand what is called low-hanging fruits. Low-hanging fruits for any administration is, can you take a look at what the previous administration began to do and see some of them that are 90-something% and complete it? That way, you will quickly get your wins. One of the key errors of this particular minister is that for him, the policies that he came up with to improve the power sector reform is to increase tariff. He believed and supported, the Gencos and Discos and all of the above that. If you allow the people pay for what they are not getting, then you get more money.
I don't think
and invest. That's my interpretation.
Yeah, but they were very clear when the Band A stuff, the different classifications came up.
That's a scam.
But the question was, and I think over the past years we've been talking about cost-reflective tariff, and we understand that Nigerians were not paying cost-reflective tariff because the government was also subsidizing that particular sector. However, when the issue of classification of the various bands came up, he said, even though it remains to be seen, that people have to get a minimum of 20 hours of power supply to be considered under Band A, and that in itself was a different conversation. But in your view, what were some of his shortcomings that made you believe he's not the right man for the job? So
the power sector is a very technical sector. Don't forget that our fantastic Babatunde Raji Fashola was there, and of course the power sector did him not good. I mean, one of the failures of Babatunde Raji Fashola as a minister was the power sector, right? He did reasonably well with the the works, the road constructions and the rest of that, and of course the signages and all that, and some of the beautiful things he began to do, with the road. So he did well in reasonably, but the power sector made a mess of him. So, having said that, Adelabu is not a technical person, and he's quite flippant. He's a man who talks a lot without thinking about some of the things he says. He's been quite controversial with a lot of the things he has said. Now, let me take you back, sir. When you come up with a supposed classification of band, and you say, oh, for you to be in this band, you must have X, Y, Z. What were the mechanisms he put in place to ensure that people are not shortchanged? Nigerians are scammed daily with this classification. It would have been better to increase the power tariff and leave us where we were than to tell people that they are going to get to band A. If you are in band A, they will get 20 hours of electricity. There are people that have been placed in band A, they've not gotten electricity in the last 2 months, and they are paying. So the reality is that's why I talked about, is it Tunji Bello, the guy, the interior minister, for me is the shining star of the administration.
Right. So you don't expect his name to come up? I don't expect him to.
Okay. If his name comes up, it might just be people are making a mistake. Okay. But I think he's one of the best ministers so far.
All right, so let's take a look at the next one. The next guesswork, as put together by so many reporters and insiders. This one, a no-brainer. Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation might be scrapped due to, of course, what happened with the Edugate, and I think we've discussed this one rather extensively. So who is next on this particular list? Let's take a look. All right. This is, of course, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning. Don't know what to say there, but I don't see when it comes to budget and planning,
I don't see the reason why we should have a full-fledged ministry for budget and planning. It used to be under the Ministry of Finance, right? It used to be a massive department with a DG. They have a Director General of Budget. And in fact, actually, that office of Budget and Planning, Office of Budget that handles it, but the minister is just a figurehead there. I don't see any reason why we should have a minister.
But do you think this could happen?
It may not happen because of how influential this particular minister is.
So it could be a political decision.
So it might be a political decision, but I don't see him going.
Okay.
It's very close. It's quite close to the president.
Okay. Who's next on the list? Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at the long laundry list of the known unknowns. There are about 48 ministers there. I don't know what's going to happen to the Minister of Petroleum Resources, but your guess is as good as mine.
I think he should go.
Okay, that is the president, by the way. But in talking about the known unknowns, which is that, according to Onanuga's statement when he was interacting with the press, he said this may happen before October 1st. So it's safe to say even within the presidency, the president's spokesperson doesn't even know the timeline of this happening. But the speculations have been rife for the past couple of weeks when the president was away. What do you make of the timing of this? And there are those who are concerned that the president is trying to misdirect by scapegoating some of his ministers. If his argument is that, listen, Nigerians need to be patient with this administration, it's going to take time. Why is he impatient with his ministers?
So I think
or appear to be impatient with the ministers.
I don't think he's been impatient with the ministers. If I were the president, the first year.
You think 1 year plus is enough for them to?
6 months is enough for me to even take a look.
Around?
Yes, I mean, as country director of an organization, what we do is that at the end of every intervention, right, we do a postmortem. What are the lessons learned? How did we fare? What did we do well? What did we not do well?
Much easier if it's just an organization of 200.
Yes, an organization where we were in 17 local governments.
We're talking about Nigeria, the largest democracy.
It's a miniature, sir. I don't have the budget that the president has. He's running trillions of dollars, trillions of naira. I wasn't running trillions of naira.
You're making it sound so simple to run this country.
To run this country is the simplest job. If I become the president of this country,
there's evidence to show that it is not the simplest
there's
job.
Evidence to show that it can be the simplest job. It's just that we've gotten the wrong set of people to run the country. To run Nigeria is very easy. What the president needs now is to bring in technocrats You don't populate.
Wasn't that what President Muhammadu Buhari did?
How many? If you take a look at President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet, tell me the percentage of technocrats versus politicians in that.
One would say it's 40 to 60.
It wasn't up to. It was about 20-something%. As against Jonathan's administration that had more than 70% technocrats. Go back and check. You look at the people. Because you see, to run a country, you must be strategic. You must be pragmatic. You must understand where you're going. You must have seen your destination. The question is, how are you going to get there? And who will help you get there, sir? Like this program you're running, you know how long this program is going to take. You know each segment and how you're going to go. So you have a producer. So if your producer is not doing a very good job, what happens? You go back at the end of every program and say, no, we didn't do well here. We can't continue to do like this. Are we having that? We have come every Tuesday, Monday or whatever and do Federal Executive Council meeting. What do they do there? They just approve monies. What they ought to do there is to come with memos. What are the challenges you're having? How are you solving the problem? Nigerians are complaining. They say, oh, I'm not the fault. I'm not the problem. I met it. Those are the excuses people give. I, as president, if I take off office and Nigerians want to protest, I will beg Nigerians. I am sorry. It's my fault. But I will fix it.
Yeah, but do you think all these ministers have been given the resources that is needed to execute the plan?
I don't know to what extent.
Because there are some new ministries that were set up.
I agree.
But there's a blue economy, a variety of them.
Fine.
That to date don't have the necessary institutional structures to execute the plan.
So how long?
And we also understand that the administration is trying to implement the Oronsai report to shrink the government much smaller. So, taking that into consideration, do you fear that some ministers will go and some ministries will go along with them, and perhaps we'll be left with less than 47 ministries at the end of the day?
Don't forget that this is the largest we've ever had. We've never had this large cabinet before. President Muhammadu Buhari began with a large cabinet. Then later he shrank. Don't forget at some point, he had 3 ministries in one: power, works, and housing. Today, these are 3 ministries again. 3 ministers, and I think with 3 ministers of states. Yes, I agree that the constitution says that there must be a minister from every state of the federation. But it doesn't say that you must have 36 ministers. No. It doesn't say you must have 36 ministries. You can have 18 ministries and have minister and minister of state with clear. You see, the challenge is if the team.
I think Festus Keyamo gave us an insight on during the valedictory session, I believe, towards the end of the Buhari administration. He was Junior Minister of Labor, and he said, listen, this whole Minister of State thing is just a waste of time.
Yes.
There isn't much to do.
It depends on who the minister is. If the minister is larger than life, like he had, what is his name?
Chris
Ngige. He will not allow him to do a lot of things. I mean,
but do you reckon, I mean, we talked about the vice president being a spare tire, to use your own words, or Obasanjo's words, right? What do you need a minister of state for, really, administratively?
The constitution mandates and, obligates the president to appoint one minister minimum, at least one minister from each state of the federation. We have 36 states and FCT, and President Tinubu has appointed across, and in some states they have 2. That's where, for me, the error came from. You don't need 2 ministers from one state or 2 appointees from one state. So most likely, if you take a look at the adjustments they are probably going to make, I want to see that maybe he's going to begin to pull out some of the extras from the states. Some states have 2, some have just 1. So, but the reality is that if you give people assignment, if you give people portfolio, you must clearly tell them what you want them to achieve. You may not tell them to the minute details. It is your own responsibility to also say, go and get me your plan of action and how you want to get there. For example, I used to think that the Minister for Women Affairs, right? For me, I didn't think she was a good minister. But over time, I've realized that to a very large extent, she's trying. She might be quite vociferous in her ways and style and all that. She's quite young. I think she's 53 or thereabout. And you don't forget, she's somebody who ran to be president. And she's been a lawyer for a very long time, and she has made quite a lot of money in Abuja with real estate and all that. So she's someone who has her own money. And so that personality, that very strong personality, you see that more than seeing the working she's done. And she has really not been able to also have a very good working relationships with some of her subordinates and, of course, the parliament. So those things have beclouded quite a lot. But if you look deep, she's really done some reasonable.
So what do you think is the guiding principle here for the president? Is it going to be strictly on the KPIs? I mean, during the ministerial retreat, he did talk about, listen, I'm going to cut the dead weight if you're not performing. They came up with the tracker app, even though there isn't much to see there on the deliverables.
Yes.
But do you think he's strictly going to be guided by data, or would he have to square the circle with political decisions? Because he still has to worry or bear in mind 2027, right? Some of these people in his government today are reaping the rewards for working for him in 2023. So how do you see this playing out?
So one of the ways I explained the way the appointments and appointees is that it was just a reward for making sure he won. So I want to believe that he probably have seen that that's not the way to go. I mean, the federal politics is completely different from state politics. You can do this at the state level and get away with it. But at the federal level, all eyes are on you, not just the local eyes, international eyes are on you. And the way your countrymen are talking about you also speaks volume abroad, because I see that when he goes abroad, he gets questions from the international community based off of what many Nigerians are saying. So it can be quite embarrassing. So I believe, from my personal view, I might be wrong, that he must have probably sat down with a few of his team members or kitchen cabinet, like we usually call it here, to say that, look, it's better to streamline than to go this all out. Because the truth is, if as a president, I don't need to tackle 7 problems of Nigeria. No. First 4 years, pick 2 key sectors that when you solve those 2 key sectors, even if you don't get 100%, take it to 90%. It will have overriding effect on the rest of them. Then if
given
you are
the competing demands with insecurity, unemployment, poverty, and everything.
Exactly.
What education, healthcare, does he have the luxury of picking just 2 big problems and solving them?
I'm saying, for example, if I were the president, my major challenge, the first thing I'm going to solve is the power sector, in addition to the insecurity. When you solve these challenges of insecurity, right, this food crisis will end. The inflation, the food inflation will drop. Unemployment will take some shape. The economy will also take its own shape. With the power sector reform, because there are a lot of power sector reform documents, you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
I'm sure there are a lot of people in government watching you right now saying easier said than done.
Yes, everybody says easier said than done. I'm a very practical person.
Right.
I built a dam. I built an earth dam in Borno State. Yes. As an NGO. I didn't need to be a government to be able to do that. But it was an impossible task, amongst many other things. The challenge is that we don't sit down to plan. You see, I believe in planning 99%. Implementation is 1%, because when you plan properly, implementation will not be difficult for you. But if you fail to plan, you start planning at the implementation level. That's one of the challenges we're having in this country.
Do you think the president is doing this to pacify Nigerians or to course correct?
It's difficult to get into his head to know exactly what is going on, but I believe that it is in his best interest to be able to take a look critically at what is going on. The economy is not growing. The economy is contracting. The level of unemployment is on the increase. The misery index is skyrocketing. People don't have money anymore. In fact, the 70,000 minimum wage is now worse than the 30,000 that we had. Because the truth is, the intentions might be good, but intentions don't solve problem. The reality for me is that, and one of the key persons I will sack now is Mele Kyari. That's the truth. Him and his team. They've overstayed their usefulness. The reality is that sometimes, some of the decisions they take...
So you don't want it to stay just within the cabinet reshuffle?
No, there are many other people
wholesome changes.
Wholesome changes. Because you want to... So sometimes it might not even be to sack. It might be to, okay, move this person here, move this person here. Sometimes it's, okay, sorry, we can no longer keep you. But, okay, take you, put in this ministry, you go to that ministry, you go to that ministry. Let's see what happens. Right? Yes, Wike is in FCT. He was a governor. He's a larger-than-life personality, and there's a reason why they put him in FCT. And he's been able to go to the president and say, look, for me to perform, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I need. Did the president give it to him? The answer is yes. Is he performing? Yes. Do I like Wike? No. But he's performing, and I love that. I don't need to like him. But the truth is that the fact that he's performing, I'm forced to like him. Because he's doing what I want. Is he doing everything I want? No. Is he doing everything the way I want it to do? No. But you can pick him to say, okay, this person to an extent is performing. The other ministers have the same opportunity to go to the president and say, Mr. President, for me to perform, these are the impediments I have. Can you help me take them away? And you get the result. You can't just sit in your ministry and say, oh, the problem I have is that I didn't get this, I didn't get that, No.
Yeah, okay. On a final note, do you think this will likely renew public confidence in the Tinubu administration to turn things around?
No. What will change or improve the hopes of Nigerians is in practical terms. You cannot move fuel price from...
What if the new set would turn things around?
When it happens, we'll see it.
Okay.
The reality, so for example...
You're not holding your breath then?
No, not at all, not at all. For me, I just see it as a political move. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, it's a game of chess. The reality is that you can't keep doing the same thing the same way and expect a different result.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's leave it here for now. I guess the next few days, going by Onanuga's comments, if it does happen before October 1st, be sure that we will definitely be more than happy to look at some of those changes that will be made in Nigeria's Federal Executive Council. Mr. Emmanuel Osemeka, as always, thank you so much for joining the conversation, and we do appreciate you for the analysis. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. God bless you.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Daily Politics returns tomorrow, live and exclusive, as always, on Trust TV. Until next time, my name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for your time, and good night.